And this is why Quigley has been brought here, because he is an acclaimed sharpshooter.
So he's had an ad out saying, we must have someone.
Yes. And, of course, he doesn't want to have any part of that, and the story ensues. Do you know what this movie actually is? You know how I like to put it onto a different movie?
What's that?
Do you know what movie this is?
What?
It's Rambo. It is. It's Aussie Rambo. Now, let me justify that.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay. First of all, a guy comes in, other than not passing through and then being pushed out of an area, he's taken out and left for dead. Okay. Now, this is a tired old shtick that I have a bit of a soft spot for this particular shtick.
The Western shtick.
Not so much the Western shtick, but the one man taking down many men. And picking them off one by one, sort of thing.
Till they get to the big honcho.
And that's what Rambo is.
It's not just Rambo. I think they do it in Die Hard.
Die Hard. And he just picks them off one by one. It's a tired old shtick. It gets
Con
used
Air,
all the time.
Any sort of film where you've got one hero who has to go and shoot everybody else.
It always gets an extra mark for that. I just like that story.
You like that story?
I like that story.
Right.
I recognise that other people don't, but this is what that story is. So, but it's about an American sharpshooter in Australia.
Yes, he's come to save the local people.
No, he's come to shoot them, but he didn't know he was there to shoot them.
No. But once he's figured it out, he's come to save them. He's saving crazy Cora. He's saving all the people who need saving.
Now, can I just talk a little bit about some of the mistakes, the historical mistakes of this particular podcast?
Which podcast?
Oh, sorry, what did I just say?
Podcast, you mean film?
Sorry, my brain.
This podcast.
I'm getting a little distracted here with all the distractions at the moment. But no, some of the historical aspects of this movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Paul's History Bits.
You just couldn't help yourself, could you?
Well, I thought it was appropriate. Okay, first of all, this is set in 1860.
Yes.
Okay.
It started off being set in 1880, but they changed it.
Well, they shouldn't have, because when everybody's talking about this miraculous rifle, and the reason I'm being particular about the weapons today is because it is actually one of the protagonists in the film, like the red violin. It's an important piece of equipment.
You know, it's not based on a real event. Therefore, the gun can be as fictional as it wants to be.
No, look, well, just give him lightsabers and be done with it. You know,
pretty much. It's not.
The gun is designed. Let me just try that again. The gun is a Sharps rifle. Okay.
Yes, we gathered that from the fact that he can shoot from a far distance.
It's a very early,
accurately.
It's a very early sniper's rifle.
I got that.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be real.
This particular gun that he had was designed in 1874. And it's set in 1860.
Yes, he says it's a model that hasn't been out and about, so it could have been designed there. I don't think that was the issue.
Now, the Colt service revolver that Buggerlugs had, that he was using, is also...
Buggerlugs.
Alan Buggerlugs Rickman.
I didn't realise that was his middle name.
He was using an 1860 Army service revolver. So... all I'm saying is that, the post was going really, really well because he got it in fresh.
Okay, well, that's fine. It's only a fictitious, that aspect of it's only a fictitious story. I mean... people
are going to be scratching their heads.
What about the redcoats and stuff? Were they there in the 1860s?
I have no idea about those guys. They were weird.
I was really confused.
Weird.
That was confusing.
Oh... look, there were British troops because this was still a colony. So I don't know. But
it was weird.
Maybe they were there for comic relief. I don't know. They were just odd. They were really, really odd.
Yes.
But look, putting all of that stuff aside, it was a bit of an odd bird, this film, wasn't it? Now, there's quite a few people who seem to like this film quite a lot. And... the reviewers didn't like it generally, the critics at the time. And I imagine it would have been universally despised by the Australian audience because...
At the time.
Even now.
I think for different reasons now, though.
Yes.
The reasons would be totally different now.
But you know what it was?
What?
At its heart, it was quite a brave film.
Oh, parts of it were.
Yeah. Maybe brave is the wrong word. Maybe insensitive.
It's weird because it's got aspects of what Australian films are trying to do now, like enlighten and say, look, this really happened. And then other parts of this film are like, we're Americans, we're coming to save you. And there's other parts where it's a Western, bang, 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 bang. And I'm like, it was too mishmashy.
But it was also saying, hey, look, we're also happy to put in genocide here.
But I mean, that's something that...
Well, it's definitely happened. And that particular aspect...
definitely.
This was supposed to be a light, fluffy comedy, right up to the point where they were pushing Aboriginals off a very tall cliff.
Which happened.
Well, I'm not arguing that point. That's not my point. But I'm saying...
didn't link in with what the film had started with.
It was... I
mean, the first part of the film was him going and getting his spur into that guy's crutch.
Sure.
And I mean, for comedy relief, and everyone's laughing and stuff.
It was totally dissident from the rest of the tone of the film.
That's what I mean. You couldn't work out what was happening in this film because one part of it, it's funny. And then the next part's, her talking about her baby dying and losing her marbles. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're going too far either side.
Yep.
It was too much for me.
Now, we had a short conversation, didn't we, before we actually started up this
Which is
film.
very naughty. I know we shouldn't have done that because we should save it all for the podcast.
We couldn't help ourselves. But we just wanted to get it straight because I think we both sensed that neither of us had really worked out in our own minds just exactly what it was we'd seen. Because this was a very odd film.
It was too odd. You're too extreme. I mean, they've got some really hard-hitting points like what happened to Aboriginals, First People, back in that time period. What happens to, how women were treated back then. And then you've got on the other spectrum, it's a Western. He's coming and just shooting people and he's like the Rambo, like you said.
Yep.
And it was too... It didn't mesh well together.
No, it was a bit of a patchwork job.
It's weird because one moment you're like going, it's just a Western. The next you're going, oh my gosh, that's so intense.
Okay, so whoever was the scriptwriter may or may not have suffered from mental illness. Now, moving along with the mental illness aspect of this movie, what do you think of the performance of Crazy Lady?
Laura San Giacomo.
Yes.
I can't even pronounce her name.
That's why I called it a Crazy Lady.
I didn't really get her. I mean, sorry. I got her character, but I didn't feel like it was played quite right.
You're correct.
Okay.
You're correct. But quite right isn't exactly quite right.
Okay. What she was trying to do from the dialogue she was giving didn't make me feel like that's what she was. They didn't link up as well. I don't think she played the role as well as it could have been played.
I think what you're trying to say is that she was god-awful. That's what she was. She was god-awful.
It didn't work. As in, she didn't give off the crazy vibe. It didn't give off the... No, that's what I mean.
I don't think she's ever dealt with mental illness or anybody sat down and spoken to her about mental illness or anything like that.
I've only seen her in two things. She was the friend of Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman.
All right.
And she was in that Just Shoot Me TV series.
Okay, well, look.
But in this, I didn't think she was genuine.
No, she was terrible. But that's it. She was just bad. It wasn't that she was genuine or that you couldn't empathise with the character.
She's trying to be crazy, and for a reason that was really important, and you didn't get it.
All the information was there, and even after you found out all the information, you didn't buy it.
Well, I didn't know whether it was because, this was written in the 70s or something, and they tried to get... what's his face?
That does not surprise me because this movie does have the sensitivity of something written.
They tried to have
70s.
Steve McQueen do this film, and he got cancer, and then they tried to get Clint. I know it's awful.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at him. He got cancer.
I don't know why you laughed then. And then they tried to get Clint Eastwood to do it, and he didn't want to do it. And then they got Tom Selleck to do it. So this film has been written ages ago and then rewritten because they thought it wasn't genuinely Australian enough.
Do you think they should have made it?
Oh,
I mean, for all the trouble that they went to get there.
I don't think so. I think it was just, it wasn't written well from the start.
Now, there's going to be some people who are going to watch this and go, I don't know what you're talking about. I watched it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And you know what? If you hang on, if you're thinking of those thoughts right now and you're poo-hooing me, right? No, not you. I'm talking about the audience here.
The big you.
The big you. If that is the case, I guarantee you're not an Australian.
There are better films that portray what's happening in Australia or what's happened in Australia that people could actually watch and get more out of.
This was coming off this is clearly a film that they decided to go ahead with after Crocodile Dundee.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, because everybody was right into Australia at that point in time, and there was a great deal of curiosity about, well, what is this Australia, you know? And
they could have done something different for that, really.
They could have done anything.
Yeah.
Except this. This was terrible.
It was too much of a mix.
But look, it still would have been... People would have sat there and watched us. And let's face it, the cinematography was quite good and there was some lovely, you know, vast vista shots.
Apollo Bay looked good.
It did?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the feeling that it was Apollo Bay down there. I assume they're talking about that little settlement.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yes, in Victoria. That's not anywhere near Western Australia.
Only about. But look, let's not do that.
No. It's all good. Yeah, and I had to remind myself that this is way before Kevin Rudd.
What?
Before Kevin Rudd's... before Australia really started taking... Oh, this is going to sound really racist, so I don't mean it this way. You know how Kevin Rudd apologised?
Yes.
To
you're talking about Aboriginals.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
And then Australia was then almost given permission to go, well, hang on, what's happened in our past?
That's right.
We can make films now where we actually look at what's happened to these
This was made
poor
in 1990.
people. I know, that's what I mean. It's still before the whole, now we can talk about it and start reconciling and things.
Paul Keating, I think, from memory, was...
gosh.
No, well, this is it. And he was the one who did the Redfern speeches.
Oh,
he was
yes,
the first Australian Prime Minister to really push forward Aboriginal culture as a thing.
As a thing, yeah.
You know? And you've got to remember, it had only been 20 years before that, a couple of years added on for good measure, that Australia had voted in, I think it was 67 from memory, that Australia had voted that Aboriginals are human beings.
Oh, isn't that awful?
Recognised that they were human beings.
In the 70s, they were still taking children away from them. It blows my mind that it's still so... It's just there.
Doesn't blow
it's
mine.
not even I know, but...
I come from a bad place.
But this film is not... it has aspects of it, but then it has all this comedy stuff on it. And to me, it was... too much of a clash, really. It didn't work for me.
It was a discordant affair, wasn't it?
Oh, it was just... Yeah.
Look, I can see what they tried to do.
It didn't work.
But they were trying to do something and they set the tone for something else. And so it would...
There's 3 different tones in this film.
Yes. It holds... And
Too much.
You know, light adventure comedy.
Light fluffiness.
And then it pivots when he gets pushed off the thing. And then it's all revenge. Whatever happened.
They don't even get him up. Why is he feeling like this? As in, I don't know.
Because he's an incredibly good person. I think the character is...
He's just good. You just have to believe he's good.
He's good with a capital G. No, look, it's awful.
Yes.
I think it's awful. But you may still enjoy it. And you know what? I really enjoyed it.
Did you?
I did.
There was parts of it that were in...
But it's still awful.
It was too much differences.
Yes.
If it had been to one tone or had slightly different actors, I think I could have dealt with it.
Yep.
But because it was all over the shop,
Yep.
It did my head in.
After the
Too
first,
much.
as I said, after the first 10 minutes of raging inside my own mind, I relaxed. And I sat back, had another sip, and just relaxed and just tried to let it flow over me. And when I did that, I could enjoy it. And that's what I mean. Like, this is not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it's possible for you to sit down and be able to watch this film and enjoy it if you're in the right frame of mind. And if you're Australian, it's going to take a bit.
Well, I think because a lot of people are either going to go, oh, that's awful, or, oh, you're being too comedic about, as in, I can see